Today I'm going to show you how to true a wheel at home using two views and a spoke wrench. Okay, so what I've done here is I've set up two views, and we're going to start with our lateral truing, because as you can see it's just kind of going like side to side, and we want to get that as centered as possible before we start radial truing. So here we go. I'm just going to look for my rub spots, I guess you could say. And yeah, another thing is I built this wheel with shorter spokes, so you'll be able to kind of see what's going on with the spoke threads because they're shorter. It just kind of works that way. If you can see it, and the more you watch the video, the more it'll make a little more sense to you. So what we've done here is just tried to center it, and there we go. You can see how it's kind of centered here, and you have a gap. And now what we want to do is tighten up our non-drive side. We're going to call the non-drive side the left side here, and the drive side is on the right side, just for a reference. So as we can see, it's kind of centered here. So our drive side, we're just going to loosen a little bit, and what'll happen is it'll push it over to the non-drive side. So you can see there's a bit of a gimp over onto the non-drive side. And what we want to do is pull it back over to the drive side. Now there's always two ways to do this. We can tighten one side and it pulls the rim over, or we can loosen the other side, and what it does is it kind of pushes the rim over. So now we're loosening here, so that would be the non-drive side. And then we'll just check it. We're just constantly going to check. So what I'm going to do here is just tighten up all those spokes that I've pointed at. And as you can see, it's getting a little bit better. And I'm really letting it spin just so there was enough time for me to actually explain what I'm doing here. So it's just a constant loosening of one side and tightening of another, or vice versa, simply to get the rim straight. Now as you can see, I'm pointing out the spoke threads there, and I'm going to tighten this one up. And as we keep going, you're going to see that the threads will all sort of be around the same place. Well, ideally, that's how it should. So at this point here, we can see that it's getting pretty straight. So I'm just going to tighten up the non-drive side. And there's just that little gimp there. You can sort of see it on this angle. Go nice and slow here. All right, so the non-drive side. And that's a good practice to just kind of go an extra quarter turn or a half turn when you're tightening, and then loosen it off so you don't get that spoke wind up. So now what we're doing is we're just going to check our radial true. There's still a little bit of a gimp there, and a little bit is touching. So there, that's the spot where we want to just kind of raise the rim. At a certain point, there's going to be rubbing, but it's not going to be laterally. It'll be up and down. So radially. What you have to do here is tighten up usually a pair of spokes, one on each side, and it'll just pull the rim up. So I'm just showing you how the margin there. I was trying to use a disc brake gapper, and it's kind of a fail here, but you kind of get the idea. I think they're about like 2 millimeters wide. So yeah, like at this point here, it's pretty good. So we're just gonna look for our radial issues. And here we go. You can see like just a little bit of rub there. And so what we want to do is we just want to raise the rim up. There's two ways that you can true radially, and that's by tightening, which is what we're doing here. And you tighten up in pairs mostly, one on each side. Or you can loosen where it's too tight in other areas of the rim or the wheel. So there you can see how it just kind of stopped. That means we still have some rubbing. And just adjust the indicator arms, and there you go. You can see there's a bit of rubbing here. It's on the non-drive side. And sometimes all you need to do is tighten up one side. And you'll see that by one side of the rim not touching the indicator arm and the other side touching. It seems kind of odd, like it shouldn't be, but it's something to look for, and it's more of an advanced sort of technique. And if you really think about it, if you're truing a wheel and it's pushing over to one side, it's usually going to go over to the drive side. And that's because there's less spoke tension on the non-drive side. So they're going to be more likely to just sort of spin off or loosen off. And that being the case, as you're taught, it's to you loosen one side and tighten the other, just so you keep the tension balanced. But it kind of doesn't make sense because both spokes can't both lose tension at the same time. So if you sort of have, for example, if you have too much rubbing on the drive side, you know that there's a very good chance that it's the non-drive side that has loosened off. So why would you want to do anything to the drive side? You want to tighten up the non-drive side. Really, these things will just come with experience the more you do it. And the more you watch me do it, the more that you're going to absorb and apply to your own truing endeavor. So here we go again. We have a little bit of radial rub. So I'm loosening it off to the drive side. So I guess what happens is we found a hop. So if I'm loosening, that's because there's a hop. Sometimes there's a hop and then sometimes there's a dip. What you need to do is loosen off a little here and then tighten up a little there. And it's just kind of one of those things. You have to learn how to identify the hops and the dips first before you can actually fix them. And there is another way. You can just simply use the tension meter and see which spokes have more tension and which have less. But I'm just going to show you the way that we would have done it, back in the day before everybody had a tension meter. You just kind of did it by feel and by touch and by eye. Here we go. It's getting pretty straight. I just kind of raised up the indicator arms and you can see there's a bit of rub there. So we're just looking for our looser spokes. So there, you can see there's a bit of a hop. So if there's a hop, we want to pick those two spokes. And that one's really tight. So there was a dip there. What I did is I tightened up and we just keep going. We don't want to do too much, maybe half turn at a time. And you just kind of gauge it because you have to remember that as you tighten or loosen, it's going to affect a different part of the rim. And it'll always do that until all of the tension is balanced properly. So here we go, just kind of open up the indicator arms because now I've done my radial truing and I have a bit of a lateral problem that I have to true out now. This is what I mean. It's a constant back and forth, up and down type of work. That's really what you have to accept. There's no way that you can say, I'll get this done in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Because as soon as you fix one problem, another one occurs. You just keep doing that until that doesn't happen anymore. So, I'm just checking the tightness there. There we go, loosen it off a little bit. You can see there's still a little bit of a wave. It's a tiny wave. It doesn't look like there's too much of a radial issue anymore. Maybe slightly, but in all honesty, radially, there's a decent amount of room for error. So now we have a lateral problem, and we just want to keep fixing that. So I'm just going to loosen off the non-drive side, and you can see it just keeps waving a different way. So you have to find the problem, identify it, and then just keep working on it. There, I'm just going to loosen off a little bit more. And loosen off a a little more. This one here, I'm just going to tighten up a little bit. And to be honest, there's really no rhyme or reason on how to do it. Each wheel is going to be subjective. Each truing session is going to be subjective. All you can do is learn the rules of thumb, and that's it. You have to apply them in the moment. As you can see there's still a little bit of a gimp. Now this wheel, like I said, I built with shorter spokes, so it's not going to be perfect. This was more just, I just wanted to see if I could do it, and I'll just kind of show you guys what I was doing. So now I'm tightening up a little bit, and there's really no way that I can tell you which spokes that I tightened, which I loosened, because I just kind of did it with the cameras on. And there's really no way for me to actually explain it that way, other than to just tell you that you have to do it yourself, and you just keep doing it, and you're gonna mess up. To be honest, if you mess up, it's okay, because you just spin it and then you just start localizing again. You just use each spoke, and after a while, they all just true themselves out. Now, there's gonna be more to it. This is more of a build because I had lower spoke tension, but if you're getting a wheel and it kind of looks like this, different rules sort of apply. You're not going to want to do quite as much, and I mentioned this before, that if the rim is veering one way or another, you pretty much have to just think of it as one spoke has loosened out of the nipple, and that's why there's that deviation. You want to just find exactly where it is and then tighten up on the side that should most likely be loose. So I think I've done a pretty good job here. Radially, there's just a tiny little bit of hop, and that's me saying it. Most people aren't even going to notice. So at this point, it's pretty good. I'll end it here, and I'll say thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something. And to be quite honest, the only way to learn is to just keep watching me. Actually, the best way is to keep watching, absorb, and then apply what you learn at each time to your own truing session. If you want to see me true some other wheels, you can click right here.